All right. Good morning. Welcome to my stream. What were we doing yesterday? So this is the editor. Let's switch over to it. There we go. What we were working on, this text editor, which is actually pretty far along. It's actually a usable text editor. It's not great because it doesn't have a lot of the features you would expect, and that's what we were doing. Starting yesterday, was working on some of these extra fancy features. We had just done line numbers somewhere. There we go. And we added the Rust syntax highlighting. So now we can actually have, if I edit a file, C, we can see line numbers along the left-hand side of the screen. And if we go down a page at a time, we can see them increasing, and going up a page at a time, and see them decreasing. So that's all working well. And it also handles Rust code. So if I, probably need better error message saying for that, right? That would also be a nice feature to have. What do I have here? Main.rs. Right, there we go. So now we can see Rust-based syntax highlighting versus C-based syntax highlighting. There's a Rust down there, and I can't open a new file, but I can quit and then do this, and we can see the C down there. All right. Before I get to the next item on this punch list, right? So I did this. So it handles C and it handles Rust. So that's the quote unquote more file types for me. We did line numbers. What I would like to do is also relative line numbers, because that's a feature that I see a lot of people using. And what we can do is, so basically, when the cursor is on a given line, we print the line number it's on, and then we say 1, 2, 3, 4 going this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so and so on going that way. So people can say how many lines down something is. The other thing I would like to do is be able to make this flexible, such that if there's only 2 digits of line number, there's no reason to have a whole bunch of extra spaces up there, right? So we can see how many lines there are in the file and adjust the width of the gutter here based on how many lines there are in the file, and then just shift it over when we grow. Right? Yes. Okay, so let's see. We have in our screen code is where we print the line numbers. And let me just put a comment here. Display line number on the left. Draw row in remaining columns. There we go. So that way we can find it easily when we're scanning through the code. Okay. But instead of doing file row +1, we can see if the cursor is on the current row. And is that possible to see? Do we have that information? Right now we have the rows here. We have the row and column offset here, but we don't know what the current cursor, what line is the current cursor on. And we can get that, right? Because we have that in our editor when we call draw rows. We know where the cursor is. It's on self cursor Y, right? So if we pass that in, just paste it like that, and then here we can just say C row for cursor row, right? Crow. And we can say here, now instead of printing just file row +1, we can say let gutter num is equal to, and if, oh, we have to say file row +1. Oh, this is not the row that the cursor is on. This is the screen column the cursor is on. I mean, the screen row the cursor is on. We need to differentiate that between And we actually do that here. We do that translation here, right? Because we have this file row. And the file row is the row plus row off as usize. So we checked here if the cursor is on that row. Got it. So we can just compare it there. So we can say if row is equal to cursor crow. Row is probably usize, right? Oh no, it's a U16, and that's a U16 also. Okay, good. Else, if it is, then the gutter number is going to be file row plus 1, because that's what we already have. Gutter num. Otherwise, it's going to be the offset, the absolute value of the offset between current row, which is in row, and the screen row we're on. Oh, the absolute value of yeah, the difference between the two. So it'll be row minus crow dot abs. Does that work? Semicolon. We can't do abs. Method not found in U16. Really? Can I go U16 abs like this? I thought you could do a dot abs on a U16. Oh yeah, it's duh. You can't do a U16 abs. Okay, so else if row is less than crow, then it's going to be, yeah, because it can't go negative. What am I thinking? If row is less than crow, then it's crow minus row. Else it's going to be row minus crow. There we go. And what did I miss? If and else have incompatible types. Oh, is file row? Oh, file row is usize. Okay, so I have to say as U16. And then we can just put this in here. Save a bit of space. There we go. Okay, so now we should have relative line numbers. We don't. Oh, we do. Look at that. Yeah, and it's different. We need to make it a different color, right? Because that's one of the things is that it's got to stand out more. Because when it's like this, it doesn't really help. Because we have 1 and then 1. Oh, right. The other way to make it stand out is to shift it in, right? So if it's... There's a way to put... Oh. How do we do that? How do we do that? Programmatically determine the format. Because I think this, for the format macro requires a hard-coded string, right? Rust programmatically format a string. Yeah, so you can't do this. And what's the answer? The answer is requires a string literal. And the string has to be known at compilation time. And then, okay, let's pull in an entire template engine to do this. How can I store a format string from outside my source? How can I create a little... Is there any other answer besides that? I guess not. I guess not. What we can do, though, is we can say if row is equal to crow and print one thing, else print the other thing. And we'll do -5 here. Gutter num 5. Oh, because I forgot this? Yeah. So that's that, and that's that, right? Does that look right? That looks right. Nope, didn't like it. If and else have incompatible types. Oh, I missed this here. Oh, and it has to be a format. There. There we go. Okay. So now let's quit. Let's try again. Nope, didn't work. What? Why not? Froze crow. And this. And then we print it using this format. Oh, did it not build? No, it built. If chain can be written with a match. Really? How do you match on this? Alright, well, we're about to learn something new about Rust here. But what I'm missing here is why isn't this formatting with it? Why isn't it shifting over? Let's put an X there and a 4 here and see what happens. What does it look like? What does it end up looking like? Yeah. But I thought the negative meant shift it over. Rust, format, left, justify. The negative meant... It's a padded string with 0. I'm trying to left justify. Add a pad left. Does this show the format strings types? 04 is padding with zeros, right? I mean, it's not complaining about the fact that it's a negative. Right? It's not blowing up. Nothing here. And look for the word left. Oh, I see. Left aligned. Default fill-in for non-numerics is a space and left aligned. Default for numeric format is also a space with right alignment. The lesson argument is left aligned with columns. The great caret is center aligned and the right is right aligned. So can I do this? Why is the negative? Oh, currently not used. Okay, let's try this then. There we go. And now we can get rid of the X. All right. I should keep a running text thing about things I've learned in... Ooh. We've lost it now. Oh, because I've scrolled down. Yeah, okay. So I want to actually print it on the line. That's funny. Look at that. So I'm on line 42, but it's printing it down here instead of where the cursor is. Oh, cursor row minus row off. Right? Oops. Stop that. Okay, so I can just create a boolean let on cursor row is equal to row equals crow minus row off. Right, because the cursor row is always going to be greater than or equal to the row offset. So that shouldn't go negative. And then this is on cursor row. Then do this. And we can do the same thing here. That way we only calculate it once. All right, let's see if that works. Right? And now, oh, except this says 32 and we're on line 31. So we have an off by 1 error here. And look, this 0 here is here. Okay. Oh, we need to compare it, right? If I do a CMP, this gets us an ordering, and we can match on the ordering. And that will make this complaint go away. So if it's less than, ordering less, I think it is, then our result is crow minus row, ordering equal, then it's going to be this, and then ordering greater, and it's going to be row minus crow. And it doesn't like this because I need a semicolon. Yeah. And then we're going to say, oh, we want to save it here. I guess it doesn't matter. We can just repeat this, right? Row comp crow minus row off equal to ordering equal. Oh, it doesn't like that. Oh, ordering. I need to import that. It's going to tell me where it's from. Nope, it's not going to tell me where it's from. Rust ordering. Standard compare. I should have guessed that. And now we can't do this. Oh, because we don't have gutter num. Let gutter num equal. Okay. Order is equal to this. And we're going to say order. And then order. Right. Still not. Expected ampersand U16 found U16. Okay. Greater. There we go. Okay, let's see if this is closer to what we're looking for. That's correct. These are all correct, as we would expect. And then when we go down, oh no, that's wrong. Oh, because this has 0 instead of 1. So that's wrong, actually. Let's fix that. When we create the status bar, we should be printing out... Yeah, oh, this is a cursor. Now I'm confused. This is showing the cursor's row, not the current line number we're on. Oops, and I just went up and it gave me a line 81 bug here. All right, let's fix that, and then I need to understand. Oh. Right? And then this is going to be delta and delta. But I still think, oops. I still think this is, why is this printing out the wrong thing? Unless cursor Y is really the row we're on. The actual row, it's not the cursor location on the screen. Right? We call refresh screen, and we pass in the cursor, Render X, row offset, column offset. Okay, so let's take a look at that. We've looked at this before. Ah, yes, yeah, so the cursor Y is actually the is the row number in the file. So it's the cursor of the file, not the cursor on the screen. Okay, that makes sense now. And now if we look in screen, C row is the actual row that the file is on. I mean, the cursor is on, right? So the delta is the delta between the current row that we're displaying, which is file row, and the cursor row. Right, so this should be file row. Right, and that should fix everything up. Oh, and the cursor row might not be equal to the file row. I mean, might not be greater than the file row. Okay, so now we have to do this. So we want to compare the cursor to the file row. Like that. And now we don't have delta anymore. I'm just going to stab in the dark here. Oh, that won't work because file row is and these won't subtract either, right? As usize. Oh, not that. Oh, there have to be as U16s. As U16. As U16. All right. Let's see how close we are now. Okay, these are all correct. If I go up, that still works. Last time it panicked when I moved up a thing. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Yep. Okay. And I want to actually change this then in the editor where we print the cursor. We want to say cursor y plus 1. I wonder if that's a bug in the tutorial or if that's something I introduced because I skipped over something too quickly. All right, so do we have relative line numbers working 100% now? It looks like it. Right, if I go down a page at a time, 81, page 110, 53, 24, 1. Yep, okay. So relative line numbers are working now, I believe. And if we look here, this 17 matches this 17. Right? I can go down a page at a time here. Boom, 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 boom. Right? All right. So, quit. Oh, I got to reset the screen. There we go. Okay, so that's relative line numbers. So we made it a little fancier. Let's take a look at what changes we made and see if it blew anything up. Right, so I'm passing in the current row that we're on in the file. I incremented that because the lower right hand corner was starting from row 0, and we don't think about that as humans. This is just taking in that new parameter. We get the ordering for this, and then we use that to determine if we're going to print it indented like this, 164, and that. Okay, so that's relative line numbers. And then the other thing I wanted to do was line numbers that grow and shrink with how many lines there are in the file. Git stance, git add source, git commit gem, relative line numbers. Okay. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to move away from line numbers and take a break from those? Yeah. Soft indent. If you like using spaces instead of tabs, make the tab key insert spaces instead of the tab control character. You may want backspace to remove a tab key's worth of spaces as well. This goes back to this, right? We want to be able to have a config file that determines whether or not, to use tabs and how wide to make the tabs. And it could also say whether or not it supports line numbers, or turn on line numbers, or make it relative or absolute. Modal editing doesn't seem interesting to me. Multiple buffers does seem interesting. And then end curses. Right, I was talking about that in the last stream, using end curses to make it more performant, I guess. Because right now we're redrawing the entire screen every time somebody modifies the display in some way, by inserting a character or scrolling up or down or whatever. And so you're painting the whole thing. And end curses has better logic about what to repaint. Although when you're not going over a network, it's not so bad to do it the way we're doing it now. So what should be first? Let's take a look at the config file. And is there a crate we can use? I'm sure there is. Config. Layered configuration system for Rust applications. Another config parsing library. Git config file parser. AWS SDK config and credential provider implementations. Simple config parser. This has almost 500,000 downloads, so maybe this one's good, even though it's still a 0.13, and it looks like it's being maintained. Let's take a look at the API. Primary variable, string literals, and well-known formats. Another config instance. Files TOML, JSON, YAML, ini, run, and JSON5. Wagafa, good day. How are you? All right, so maybe we can add a config parser. What's this? Async config builder. I don't want to deal with async right now, so let's take a look at config builder. A registered order sources of configuration to later build consistent config from them. I don't know if English is this person's first language. I think I understand what's going on. Configuration sources, it defines or defaults sources and overrides. Wagafa says, thinking of actually starting the same projects when you're doing. Yeah, neat. It was kind of fun, and the whole purpose of me doing it again is to learn Rust by taking a different language and porting it to Rust. I'm starting to see some of the downside of that, because the architecture for a Rust program is very different to the architecture of a C program. And so it really makes sense to try to just understand the whole thing first and then re-architect it for Rust. Otherwise you get very C-like Rust code, which is what we ended up with here. I tried to do a little bit of Rusty stuff, but not enough. Not nearly enough. Alright, so it looks like we just say config builder. I see there's a default value here, add source, so we can read from a source file and give it a file format. And then we can override stuff, is what I'm reading from here. Defaults are always loaded first and can be overridden, right? I guess overwritten works too. By any of two other sources. Overrides, yeah, but if you're going to say overrides, you're going to be consistent. Are always loaded last, thus cannot be overridden. Yeah, so that's what the override is. So it looks like it just does it in order. We set a bunch of defaults, we add the source to override those defaults, and then we can override the source file. And it looks like async, but I don't want to async. Intermediate category source set group of keys at once, implicitly using data coming from external sources like files, environment variables, or other that one implements. Okay, so that's interesting. And we can just use a builder here. This is just saying config/settings, and I don't think we'd have to look at the code. Why is there two different kinds of sources? Add source methods. Add source. I see add source -1 here. Now, there's definitely two different kinds. The only thing I'm seeing change is the add async source, though. That's interesting. Gustavo, thank you for the sub. Much appreciated. It's very kind of you. So if we do, is it on different impulse? Ugafa asks, how do I see if they're on different impulse? Here's an implementation of builder. Okay, maybe that's it. Right, if I look at the first one, it's implement on config builder. If I click on the second one, oh, impl config builder async state. Okay, so maybe this is an async add source on a, but there's an add async source. I'm confused. Okay. But I think we're not going to do any async stuff. So register is a new source in this builder. Add source. Calling this method does not invoke any I/O. Source is only saved in internal register for later use. Okay. But it doesn't like do a dot file, right? It just pushes the source type. And the source just has to be source plus send plus sync and static. Okay. And then... Okay, so this builds an async source here. How does it get invoked? Is that just at the end of the builder sequence? Oh, I really went wild looking that up, didn't I? Oh, and then we call builder build. Okay, so once we call build, that actually reads all registered sources. For non-consuming alternatives, see build cloned. I'm okay with consuming it. Build internal. Here's build internal. Sources collect to cache. And sources is a what? Box din source and sync. Oh, so we must have a source struct, right? In this thing. There it is. And then collect into does what? Cache key val. Where is it actually reading the file? Phone at the box, collect, and collect to. Ugafa says, this is almost like the configurator I built, obviously been maintained longer. Okay. Is yours up on crates? Because we could take a look at yours too. I wanted to see where we were reading it, because I think that pub config deprecated since 12.0. Please use config builder. Okay, so that's not it. Configuration source backed up by a file. Maybe it's here that we see the code. Let's take a look at the source. Does it impl file? Does it impl source? And I can't check impl source because there might be some brackets in the way. I just want, what I'm trying to find out is if it looks in the, home/.config, or if it just looks in whatever directory you pass it. And I've got a feeling it just reads the whatever file name you give it. Okay, let's make the assumption that I can make a dir config kilo head. Right, and we can model it after, let's say, config vim. Right, this has an init.lua and no lua.vim, and so we can just make an init file here. Settings, I guess we can call it, and then we can say lines numbers equals off, and that'll turn off the line numbers, and we can have it on by default. Okay, so let's try this out. Gaffa says no, not yet. I'm rewriting, refactoring, and figuring out a better API. Yeah, that's one of the so I'm working on another crate somewhere else, and I just don't know if I've got the right API. And then you release something and you say, oh, this is all bad because I've thought of a better way to do this. Now it just blows everything up, right? Like this thing here has a bunch of deprecated stuff, right? Don't use this anymore. Use config builder instead. So you see that kind of thing. All right, so config builder seems pretty straightforward. We can do this, right? We can set our line number. I've got a feeling this is just like key value pairs, right? Is that all it is? It doesn't say. I mean, it shows this as an example, but it doesn't really say. Right? It just inserts expression from string key as ref value into. Huh. Okay. See, this kind of stuff like this. This is, I see this all the time in crates where you just use traits to define the arguments. And I'm writing an API for a crate now that doesn't do all of that. It just has the actual type in there into value. Okay. So I think if I just add this, let's add. It's just called config, right? Cargo add config. And we can just call default, and we can say line number, and line number can be, I guess it's just a string, so it would just be 0 or on, off, or relative. I guess would be the best way to go with this. On, yeah, I'm just waiting for this. I'm just muttering while this is happening. So we can do in main, we can load up a config. So we should be able to say use config, I guess, and then we call it config builder. Let config is equal to config builder, and it's just dot build, right? Oops. Yeah. And then dot set default, line numbers is relative, right? For some reason we have to put a question mark there. I guess because the value into could fail, or the key into could fail. And I have this thing returning a result from cross term. So it's going to mess up our, maybe we put this in a separate file, or separate function load config, and that returns a result standard. Well, let's see, what kind of thing does this return? Right? Set default returns a result of self or config error. And this is just the standard core result. Self. Oh, and we can just do this, or config error. And config error comes from this crate, right? Config error. pum, right? And then we can say set file. Was it? Add source. Oh, we have to get the home. We can't put that here, and I don't think we can put tilde here, right? In it. Question mark. Semicolon. Okay. Config. Guess we could do that, right? I forgot the opening brace. What else did I forget? Oh, I forgot these things here. There we go. And so now we can say match load config. Let config equals. It's okay. Config. Oh, this is a better way to do this, right? Need println unable to load config file using defaults. And then we have to actually give it a default config. So what is it returning though, right? Because when we actually load it, we have to call build, right? And so we want it to actually return our config. So what does build return? Why is this so complicated? This should be super easy. It returns a config. And config has whatever in it. How do you get the values out of? Oh, I see. Get array, get float, get in, get table, refresh. So this is config. So then we should just create a default without a source. So we'll just say default. This should be semicolon, and then just say default config, and return that. And then default config mustn't panic. Config. So we're just going to force it. Config, and it will just panic if it fails. Builder, set default. Oh, what? I know we have repetitive code here, but I'll fix that in a second. Expect. Oops. Build. Expect. Oops again. Oh, that's bad. Okay. All right, let's see if this builds. Unwrap or else. Yeah, there's a way to do this. To say, and maybe actually, I wonder if Clippy will help. Sometimes Clippy helps with these things. Method not found in config builder. Really? But they told me to do that. Config builder is a function. Perhaps you wish to call it. Oh, I do. It is a function. And I do wish to call it. Thank you, Rust. Okay, so now what do we got? Required by this bound. Oh. It's not letting me do this. I have to fix this anyway because of the tilde, but I thought you could put a hard-coded string in there. Wasn't that the example? Oh, incorrect. The example is this whole jazz. Okay. So config, yeah, I'll fix this in a second. Config kilo ed init, and the file format's going to be in any file, right? Where's my file format? Well, that's too bad that they don't highlight those. File format. Yes, there's an any type. Okay, good. All right, so with that, fix that bug. Almost. I need to import file format and file. And then use standard IO file. I forget where it is. Maybe Russ will tell me. There's no file in IO. Treat standard ops tries not implemented. Okay. Let's go here real quick. And oh, this is cursive. Yeah, these non-building, non-compiling things. Okay, Rust file struct. Oops. File hierarchy, package layout. Just open file. Holy moly! I'm just there. Standard FS. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that should address that issue. There's no file new. Oh, this is the right. It's got to be coming from there because we're passing this file format business. Yeah, and now we don't have the question mark operator. Okay. Why is this so hard? It should be hard. Oh, there is no question. You're right. Adding the source doesn't have the possibility of failing. That always works. Okay, so now we have this. Right, and now we want to actually pass in the config. Right? And that means in editor, we want to say use config, which I guess we can put it here, right? And then with file, we're going to add the config. And we're going to add it to this thing here. Oh, now, oh, right, we're giving it a reference. I wonder if we can move it. I wonder what's going to blow up now. Config, config. Config, config. Right, and then we want to add it here. I wonder if we can do it this way or if that's going to say, oh, copy it. You can't copy it around like that. Supply 2 arguments, expected 3. Oh, I forgot to put it here. Consider removing the borrow. Oh, right. No, it takes it. Okay, good. So we're able to move it around like that. We're not using it, but that's okay. And now I should be able to say, yeah, I wonder if this file does not exist. Then we should just ignore it, right? And just say, okay, well, the source doesn't exist. Let's see what it says here. Calling this method is not. Oh, right, and we have to call build. If source collection fails via technical reasons or related to inability to read config, this method returns error. All right. That's a little frustrating because we want to be able to say, okay, well, if the file doesn't exist, that's okay. I mean, it's okay if somebody doesn't have that there, but we shouldn't have to build it twice. right? Because we have to do all of this, and then I don't know why that is happening. Okay, but let's see what happens. What I'm going to do is make that file empty and see. I'll print in the status bar what instead of the file format, I'll print the line numbers thing. So let's go back into editor, and then where we refresh the screen, right now we're just printing file type here. So I can comment this out, and instead we can say self-config get, what was it? It was get string. There we go. We just pass that string in, and it can result in a config error. Line numbers. And on a result type, right? This is what I was looking for help with GAFA for the results, because there is an or else or something like that. But that requires this, right? Relative. Put it in parentheses so we can see if it's a default. Like that. Let's see if this builds. Nope. Expected closure argument. It takes one. Okay. Expected enum result. Oh, you have to give it a result. You can't just. Okay, I can put okay around it. That makes it a result. Still not good enough. Oh, but, well, what's the point of doing an or else if you have to do the unwrap? Buffet codes. Hello. Thank you for joining. Cannot infer type parameter f declared or else. So I can't use or else, but there's got to be some. There's got to be some Rust result override on error. Buffet Code started watching your crafting interpreter series. Outstanding stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you, Buffet Codes. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it, so happy to share. And then, or else. Oh, it is a result type, and then I have to unwrap it, but it doesn't know what the result type is. Right? It doesn't know what's coming out of here, I guess. If I do this, let's do these here. And I can just say, let k equals this. Right? And then we can take a look at what the type of k is. Result is unknown or config error. So it has no idea what's coming back from this thing. Oh, get string, right? That's what I have to do. Then it's a string. Ah, okay. So we can do that here, get string. And now it should know the type. Of course it doesn't. Oh, because it's a string. Can I say get stir out of this thing? No, just get string. Okay. I can two-string this. Is this the best way to do this, though? It still can't infer the type. Even though the type of getString is known, right? It's a result string. Buffet Code says you need a tiling window manager in Linux. Do I? I mean, I could do this, right? I could say, well, I'll put this thing over here on the left. Oops. I could do this. Tile window to the left of the screen, and I can put this on the right of the screen. And then we have this, right? But then I don't have the other window where I have my little building thing. So that's why I tab around between my screens here. It's probably not great for streaming, right? Streaming, you want to have everything on the screen at once without having to flip back and forth between windows. But then the text is too small to read. So this is my compromise, I guess. Well, okay, so why doesn't this know the type here, right? Calls op if the result is error, otherwise returns the OK. And then we unwrap it. So, but it doesn't like this. So I can do this, string config error, right? Right? And then it knows. Oh, it doesn't know configure. Oh, maybe that's why. I wonder if I can remove those. No, it's still like expected FN once closer found config error. FN once not. Wow. Okay. Why is this so hard? This should be super easy. Buffeco says, yeah, I hate using the mouse. So I like some tiling window manager extension on Linux distro. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But the fact that I'm using a laptop for this means that I don't have to take my hands off the keyboard to move the mouse around. I can still stay on the home row and just use my thumb to move the mouse. So it's not as bad as like working on a desktop would be. All right. So this or else business is not working. So I'm learning something new about Rust here, about how to add the default, add an or else case. I don't know. Yeah, so doing this, results must be used. I know that. Question mark operator. I don't want to handle that. I want to actually handle the error in line. Unwrap panics with the generic message. Unwrap or returns a provided. Oh, okay. Let's try that. Unwrap or relative to the string. Comma. Right? Let's see if this does the trick. Yay! Okay. And the error is, oh, we're not using config error. Unwrap or else to string. Now, why would that be better? I guess is my question. Why would that be better to do this? Use of unwrap or followed by a function call. And why is that bad? Or fun call. Oh, is it just because I'm converting it to a string? I mean, I can do this. Right? It just makes it more verbose. Okay, so now let's see if we run this, what shows up? We see the word relative, which means we're reading this line numbers thing. And if I change, oops, colon E. If only that worked. Config kilo init. Oh, it shouldn't be reading relative. Oh, that's the default, right? So it's not reading this file correctly. McGaffa says, yes, that call will be made always. If you wrap it in enclosure, will only be calling to string when needed. Oh, thank you, McGaffa. That makes a lot of sense. So it means that this always get called regardless of the state of getString. Whereas if I put it in the closure, then it'll call the closure, but only if getString returns an error. That makes total sense. Maybe I have to do this under settings. Maybe maybe that's the issue, is there's a subheading or something. Because right now it's just doing the relative line numbers. And if I don't have a default for it, Well, I wonder if this actually, oh, this couldn't have worked because it would have said it. No, let's do this. And do this. Oh, I guess we have to do that as well. And then take a look at what this shows. Yeah, so now this shows relative. Okay. And if I take these two out and rebuild, it says relative. So we are actually going through here. This is failing. And we must be seeing this coming out on standard error. I can actually do that, right? 2 greater than error. Quit cat error. Yep, unable to load config file using defaults. So we can't find this file, even though this file exists, and it's probably because it's not. Yeah, that's me. It's not using the. It's not expanding the tilde. So we got to figure out how to expand the tilde. Regaf says toString isn't that expensive in this context, but if you were to calculate the high prime number, it would be an issue. Yeah, no, and it's also good, you know, just good coding hygiene to do it right, do it correctly. All right, so Rust open dot file. Supercuber. He's a sorry, they are a frequent visitor to my stream. So that's cool. We got a dot file manager here. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for actually a library that I can use to yeah, dot file manager, dotter. I just want to grab, you know, blazingly fast. Okay. In order to get tilde to convert, we actually have to read a standard env, maybe? Is it called? Is that a thing? Unknown. Maybe it's lowercase n. Still unknown. Okay. Rust standard env. And then we have to look for the home variable. Vars. It's called vars. Because of course it is vars. Oh. And there's no examples. That's nice. Oh, homedir. Perfect. That's even better. I like that. Standard env homedir. And that's probably a result type, right? Oh, it's an option type. Path buff. Okay, so that we can use a path to create. MouseX says you want XDG create probably. I can look that up. All right, this is what I was looking at. So one of the things that we do in this editor is syntax highlighting. And what's the best way to do syntax highlighting is with LSP, right? Or tree sitter, one of those two. So how hard could it possibly be to write a client in this kilo ed to talk LSP to a Rust analyzer? That'd be super simple to do, right? How hard could it be? Okay, so path buff. So we need to look up path buff now. How do we add components to a path? Push. Super simple. So if let some if this fails, this is why I'm pausing, is this fails, how do I return a config error? Oh, I guess what I can do is just do it up here, right? And I can pass in the name of the file this way. So I can say if let some standard env homedir. No, that's the wrong way. Home equals standard env homedir. Right? And then let's do that. That is a path buff. We could say now home. Oh, that has to be mutable. Can I do it that way? This does say mutable. Okay, and then we can say home.push.config. Does that return another path buff? Can I say push this? Kilo ed push init? Or is that gonna let config file equals else? Else none. Unclosed limit. Oh yeah. And then I want to pass it into load config. Oh right, I was going to look up the XGG crate. What am I doing? Libs. There we go. XGG. What does this do? A library for storing and retrieving files according to XGG-based directory specification. That doesn't sound like what I'm interested in. Yeah, I'm not doing X stuff. Sorry. Right, okay, so this didn't build. Oh, because it doesn't return a thing. Okay. So we just say home dot, and then we just say some home. And now config file should be an option to a path buff. Correct. And then we say let config is if let some config file equals config file. Then we're going to match load config on config file. And this should be just a path buff. Right? And now down here, we're going to pass in a path buff. Path. Should I do it this way? And then, can this take a path buff? Did I mess up? Unused import editor. I really messed something up, didn't I? Oh, because I have a missing... Whoa! I did not expect that. Okay, let's go back. I hit some weird key combination there. I'm missing on the match, right? Yeah, here. Yeah, okay, so I think that does the trick. And now we can't... Oh, we don't have path buff. Does it say where it comes from? Standard path buff. And then homedir. Behavior is unexpected and probably not what you want. Consider using a crate from crates.io instead. Oh, it's deprecated. Well, that's annoying. I was like, oh, great, we got... Is it here? Yeah, homedir. But it's deprecated now. Deprecated since 1.29. Returns the value of the home environment variable if it is set, otherwise it tries to determine the home directory by invoking this, otherwise blah blah blah. Okay. MouseX says XDG allows you to use XDG base directories with prefix kiloed, find config file init, and it will return the path to the init file. Okay, the main difference is that it knows to look for system-wide config files if there's no user config, and it will work for Windows OS 10. But that might be overkill. I don't know. I mean, that sounds like perfect, MouseX. Absent 762, hello. Thank you for joining. I have to imagine writing porting VI Vim clone is the easiest way to learn all the key bindings. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. I've been using Vim for mumble years, and I still am learning new stuff when I watch other people do streams. All right, so is this the only one that's deprecated? Did I just happen to have one need for, yeah. So that's the only one that's deprecated. Sweet. XGG seems like it's librs. It has the feature, right, that I need. Base directories, you said. With prefix. So I have to pull that whole... Yeah, that's the thing, is we're pulling everything in, but Rust is smart enough, right, to just include the bits that we need. Home.local xgg config home. Not set as home.config. Okay, so maybe there's a get config file, like place config file, but it's not create any directories. That's not helpful. Does this mean it goes through the xgg config, because it's going through this config home business, right? So I might be able to just say get config file and not have to worry about this base directories with prefix find config file. And this returns a path buff, and that will just return the file name for me. Find not get, mouse says. Yeah, so if I say get config file, it'll return a path buff with the full path, the home/.config/. Oh. Preference ordered list of supplementary configurations set by configures. All right. And this here says find config files, given a relative path, and then find config file. Returns the absolute path to an existing configuration or none. Searches xgg config home and then xgg config dirs. Okay. Well, let's give it a shot. What could possibly go wrong? Other than, so let's get this to build, because obviously I messed something up here. Oh, we need to say or none, right? Oh, if there is no config file, then we want the default config. Means duplicate code again. So there's a better way to handle this business here. Still not good. Okay, I'm gonna ignore this just for the moment. Expected. Oh, I gotta pass it in that way. And it doesn't like this. Expected stir. Can I say as stir? Or into? Nope. Trait from path buff is not implemented for stir. So what was the other error? It said help. There's an associated function to stir. And that now? I found option. Okay, I have to say unwrap now. And that's going to blow up. Okay. I mean, it'll blow up if you can't find it. Okay, so what we have... Really? So we can just do that? And now we're not using path buff anymore. So where does path come from? Now path is not found in this. Why'd you have me change it to path then? Warning, writing path buff instead of path involves a new object where slice will do. All right, so we'll just add path here. Okay, so now we got to just fix the home dir thing, which requires a whole other crate. Cargo add xdg. Let's go for it. And how much is that going to build? Okay, so let's get, now that we have that, let's go here and let's use, I'm going to copy paste your code, mouse. So if it ends up deleting my root directory, I'll only have myself to blame. Okay, so this is just the config file name. Let's call it path name. And is this an option? What is this? It is an option path buff. Okay, which is exactly what we want from this business here, right? So we just call it config file. Stop it. Okay. So we can say here use xdg base directories, just to clean this up a little bit, right? That works. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so if we're now clean, we should be able to find this file, and let's see what happens. So config file, let's eprintln that, or dbg, right? We can do that. And that goes to standard error, right? Yeah. Quit, cat error. Yeah, so it created the exact thing we were looking for. The question is, was it able to read the file? We didn't see this error. So let's see if we can see this error. Nope. Nope. Like that. Like that. Right. Okay. One more try. Quit. Cat error. Success. Sweet. All right. Thanks, mouse. That's a nice one-liner right there to read the init file. We did have to pull in the entire XDG thing, but that wasn't too bad. Where did I build it? Way back here somewhere. I've lost it already. Wow. How come I can't find it? Oh, here it is. It's right here. Okay, so it only added dirt. Oh, DIRS. There's a DIRS crate. What does DIRS do? Maybe that's a simpler one. A tiny low-level library that provides platform-specific standard locations of directory for config, cache, and other data on Linux, Windows, macOS, and Redux. That's very specific. Error 502. Bad gateway. Okay, refresh, fix that problem. Home dir. Oh, can we get away without having to use that whole use home? Yeah, so this is exactly what env does, right? I mean, if we looked at the env business, right? Isn't that exactly what we read before? Home dir is deprecated. Returns the value of home if it is set. Use home if it is set and not empty. Otherwise, returns the value of user profile environment variable if it is set. It calls get PWUID. Oh yeah, right up here. And then Windows is slightly different. Does it use... This function behaviors differ, which works incorrectly on Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. Okay, well that's why it's deprecated. Why couldn't they just fix it instead of deprecating it? All right. Ogaffa says, I think I'm using DIRS actually. Env module is probably really trivial if you only target Linux. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, I'm going to say if you're making a general purpose programming language, you need to support the commonly used operating systems and Arch. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Okay. So I think that, yeah, I mean, this is working. We got a success here. I've forgotten what is in the init file, which I don't have here. Config kilo init. Line numbers is set to off. So let's see. Did we get the word off in there? No, we have relative. So even though we have success, because I have this under the settings thing. So let's look up how to read. And now I've lost the config crate. API reference. Okay, so how do we get... Right, because we have different headings in the INI file. So we want to be able to read... Here's config. I want to read that one setting thing, right? I guess I don't know how to do that now, right? Because I want to read this under, if I take away settings and just say line numbers equals off, will that do the trick? Off. Yes, so that does the trick. But it would be nice to be able to have different sections, and I don't know how the config handles sections yet. I guess that's what we're going to have to learn. Okay, but we have this ability now to determine what the line number should be. Right now it's hard-coded to relative, so we should read this value, and if it's off, we do one thing, no line numbers. If it's on, we put line numbers in there, and it's a relative, we do it this way. All right. So in our editor, oops, we're going to, we have the config, right? So when we read the config, to rebuild it, we put it in there, and then when we display the screen, here it is. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put this back because this is really supposed to be our file type. So 3DD. Okay, so then we can say match. Right? Match this business. And it's going to either be on, line numbers on, off, line numbers off, and relative is going to be line numbers relative. And the default case should be, oops, I already have that. I guess the default case should be off. Right? And this is going to be our line number config is equal to this, and then we're going to pass it in to draw screen, which I missed. So this goes up here, draw rows, sorry, line num config, and now we're going to have to add that as a new type in screen, I guess. Screen is going to get a new enum. Line numbers going to be off, on, or relative, right? Just like that. So this should, yeah, I spelled all those right. And now when we draw rows, now we have yet another parameter we're passing in. LN line numbers. Right? Okay, let's see if this builds. We're going to ignore it for now, so that's okay. Oh, there's strings. and we're matching against stirs, and I don't want to. Can I do that? Yeah. Okay. And now we have to go down here, and we're not using line numbers yet. That's okay. So let's fix that. How do we fix that? Screen. When we determine the line number, we're going to determine whether or not we print it. So relative line numbers are just like this. Off means we're not going to do a line number. Oops. Off means we're not going to do any line numbers, which means there is no L and O shift. Okay, so we actually want to make it part of the screen. We want to set the screen because we want to have access to it wherever we are. And we want to be able to change it on the fly, I guess, but we don't have that capability yet. So let's add the line number format. It's going to be a line numbers. And we'll pass it in here when we create the screen. Format is line numbers, right? And then we just say ln format like that, and then we don't need it here. Oh, I didn't actually put it there. Okay, so then in here we don't need to calculate it each time. We just need to do it before we create the screen. So where do we create the screen? Screen new. Here it is. So this goes here. Okay. So I think that's that part. Nope. Oh, there is no self. Oh, it's just config. We have it right there on in the arguments. Okay. And it doesn't like that. Oh, because it's not used. Okay, so we have a few errors, but that's because we're not using. Field is never read config. Oh, yeah. I guess we don't need to store it yet. That'll change. We just need it right now. We just need it when we build the screen. So let's just comment those out for now. And then, yes, we're not using the line format. I agree. Okay. So in screen code, here's where we display, and we're going to determine how to display the line number based on, right, and now L and O shift is either going to be used or not. So when we create this, we're going to either copy in the shift, which is right here, or have it 0. Ln shift is going to be used 16. And we're going to say if ln format is equal to line numbers. Oh, we could just put it here, right? Ln shift is then it's 0. Else it's going to be ln O shift. And there is another thing I want to do to change the shift value based on how many lines are on the file. Okay, so then this just becomes self.ln shift. Nope, I don't want to change that one or that one. Okay, so those are good. So this should build. Nope. Oh, because I didn't make it partial equal. And now I'm borrowing a value. It has to be copy to. I think enums should, like, if there's no, if they're just basic enums, it should get copied by default. Copy clone by default. But I guess that's too much. Okay. So that's that. And now we need to determine how to display things based on this. So if order is order equal, then we're going to do this. So this is, we want to actually change this up a little bit. We want to say if line number is and self ln format is equal to line numbers relative, right? That's when we want to do that. Otherwise, we do this. And then here, we want to say let gutter, oh, right. Let gutter num is equal to if self ln format is equal to line numbers relative. Then we're going to do this. Else, we're going to just do file row plus 1 as U16. Right? I think that's all we need to do to implement it. Okay, so let's go over to our config file. Right now it's off, so let's start up this thing. Oh, let's get, yeah, that just reminded me. Seeing it being redirected there. We don't need ePrintln and dbg. We don't need those guys. Okay. So let's go back here. So now it's off. So let's see what happened. We'll see what it looks like with it off. Ah, that's funny. So it's still printing them. But then it's being overwritten by the actual line itself. So you can see what lines are blank and what those line numbers are. Oh, almost. Okay. Let's fix that real quick. That should be an easy fix. Else if self ln format is equal to line numbers. Oh, if matches on or line numbers relative. Nope. Maybe missing an else. Oh, else nothing. Print. We can, is there a way to queue a non-command? What crate are we on? We're on cross-turn. I'll probably have it in another window, but I don't want to hunt it down now. Is it style? No. Yeah, here's print. I want to see, is there a way to just say queue nothing? No. Okay, I guess we can just say print this. That's kind of wasteful. If and else have incompatible types. Really? Oh, those are different types. Interesting. Okay, so let's try this. So this is with it off. And indeed, there are no line numbers. Okay. And this is on. Quit. Run again. And now we have it on with just standard absolute, or maybe it should be absolute and relative rather than on and relative. Now I'm being picky. Relative. Quit. And now we have relative line numbers. Okay. So that's working. Yeah, let's make it that editor. On. There it is. Quote on. Absolute. And switch over the screen and make this absolute. And then we have on. Oh, that makes that too long. Beautiful. This is pretty bad looking, isn't it? Okay, but it should do the trick. And then we go back here to config. Where is it? There it is. Make it absolute. Yep. So these are absolute line numbers. And if I change it to on, it should default to off. Right? Because on doesn't make any sense, so it ignores it, saying, okay, you don't have any business doing that. Okay. All right, so I think that's it. Git status, git add cargo and source, git diff staged. What do we got? Yeah, so we added config and XDG. XDG allows us to read the config file. Config file will parse the config file for us. In the editor, we're past the config in, and I was storing it, but now we don't need it to store it because we read the only config piece of information that we get from there. And then here's in main where we actually pull it out. Okay, I want to fix this. Not right now though, because I'm running out of time. The fact that we have default config, and then the fact that we have set default twice. We should be able to just have a function which returns this bit, and then we can either add source or not, and then call build on it. So I'll fix that, but not today. And then we have, here's our new line numbers config thing, and then we have a very messy, oh yeah, we refactored that, so now we can actually have different shifts for different things at some point. And then this got refactored to print out the correct thing based on this. And it would be nice to just say if it's off, I guess we can, right? The only thing is we always want to end with that, but this should be wrapped in an if statement. Oh, but we still need an else clause that results in something. Oh, yeah, we can do that. We can do that, right? Because we can just make it. We can just put it here, right? Right, if this matches, then we do this business, and we don't have to check the else, we just do that. And then semicolon that. That closes that, matches. This looks ugly, but I'll format it in a second. Self, standard out, and then cue the cursor movement, right? Yeah. That's formatted better. So now it says if we're doing an absolute or relative, and we'll do a reset. We'll move the cursor to 0. We'll do the gutter thing, and then this will be 0 if it's off, and it will be non-zero if it isn't off, and so that'll move the cursor to the right location. All right, let's see if that works. Let's just double check before I push this. There we go. So now we have relative. Absolute. It'd be nice to be able to automate this testing. Yeah, that works. And then off should work. Oops. There we go. Yeah, and now we have line numbers off. Okay, so that works. I like that better. Git add source, git staged. Oh no, that's the other thing. Yeah, so this is it right here. Okay. We don't need gutter num if it doesn't match, so actually I should move that into here, but I'm not going to do it now. I've wasted enough time. Git status, git commit -m config file added config file and included ability to set line numbering preference. Git push. All right. So that is it. No, that is the wrong one. This is the right one. Here we go. So that's not too bad. We did relative line numbers, and then we added the config file and included the ability to set line numbering preference. So there we go. We are done. We're done for today. So tomorrow, or if I can't do it tomorrow, whatever the next stream is going to be, we can look at some of the other things. Like the whole thing that prompted me to make the config file was this soft indent versus hard indent, because that's really a personal thing or a company policy thing, right? A group policy thing. And you may want backspace to remove a tab key's worth of spaces as well. How do you know? Auto indent is kind of cool. That's useful. Hard wrap lines. Insert a new line in the text when the user is about to type past the end of the screen. Yeah, see, that's another thing you want sometimes and don't want other times. And then soft wrap lines. So right now, if the line is too long for the screen, which is not going to be the case because I have a very wide terminal here. Oh, the other thing I want to do is handle terminal resizes. I don't know if cross-term can handle that. Cross-term resize event. What kind of events are they? No. Why does cross-term not allow you to see terminal resizes? We can get the mouse. TTY? It just says if it is a TTY. Okay, that's something to look into. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up now. Thanks everyone for watching. I had a lot of fun with this, and I'm going to continue having fun in the next stream with some more of these add-on abilities. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Take care.